evening, and welcome to Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm Stacey Johnson. Joining me tonight is Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker, and my cousin Todd. Have you voted? That's the question, because if you live in Alaska or Wyoming, today is your day, and they're many hours behind Eastern Standard Time, so you still have plenty of time to vote. NASCAR with Stephen, he's going to talk about how Kevin Harvick won again. President Biden signed the PACT, P-A-C-T Act, into law of the White House. The NBA, I don't know if you know this, but the NBA just a few hours ago decided to get political. Hear what that means. We'll talk about it. According to New York Times, Giuliani is told he is a target in the Trump election inquiry in Georgia. Rudolph W. Giuliani, I don't know if you knew his whole name, as former President Donald Trump's personal lawyer, spearheaded efforts to keep Mr. Trump in power. Listen in Georgia as we talk about that. Deshaun Watson apologizes. Tell us what you think. Now that gas prices at the pump are starting to go down, and President Biden has signed new laws, does he look a little bit different to you in terms of, does he look like a better president? Pete Rose says, mind your business. When he was back in Philly being honored. Monkeypox in France. There has been a confirmed case of a transmission from a human to an animal. A second U.S. congressional delegation visited Taiwan, and COVID-19, they're saying, is just the beginning of the war on viruses. Former President Trump's lawyer claimed no classified material was at Mar-a-Lago in a signed letter to the Justice Department, and he did not, meaning former President Trump did not have the nuclear codes. Those things and more. First up, of course, is always NASCAR with Stephen. Watch this clip, and Stephen will start talking about it as soon as it's over.
Wow, Kevin Harvick in victory lane for the second week in a row. I mean, in all honesty, did you see back-to-back wins coming from this 4 team? I know you said last week, if you doubt us, you don't know us. But did you see back-to-back wins in the cards before the regular season ended?
I didn't know. It's like I said last week. I mean, the cards have been running good week in and week out, and you see that we have a lot better understanding of what's going on with how we did adjust it on the car after the first run, and we're able to get our car handling a lot better. And I think as it got dark, the racetrack really came to our Mobil 1 Ford Mustang. So just got to thank Mobil, Busch Light, Gear Wrench, Hunt Brothers, Ream Ford, Xfinity, Morton Buildings, Easy Go, everybody who helps at Stewart-Haas Racing on this 4-car.
It's maybe a good thing it wasn't 401. Did you see Christopher Bell coming, and were you getting a little bit worried there?
Well, I knew he was coming, but I forgot to shift down the front straightaway the last time. I was not paying attention, and he got closer than he should have. So I made a mistake there a couple laps doing the same thing. I wasn't shifting on the back, and I was shifting in the front, so there was a lot going on, and made a couple mistakes, let him get too close.
So, Kevin, with this level of momentum for you and the 4 team, how dangerous can this team be in the playoffs?
We're just going to keep doing the things that we're doing, right? I think we just have to, just keep an open mind about things and keep progressing and keep understanding the car, understand what we could have done better today, understand what we could have done better in qualifying yesterday, and do the same thing over and over. I want to say hi to Piper and Keelan, Delaney, and everybody at home.
They're going to celebrate back-to-back wins. Rodney Childers, Kevin Harvick. They put Ford and Stewart-Haas Racing in victory lane here in front of these fans at Richmond.
The outcome could not have been any better for the Richmond race than to have Kevin Harvick win it, because he took over for the number 3 Dale Earnhardt Sr. About the year 2000. I can't remember right now. It's about 2000, and took over him. And almost every time the number 3 Dale Earnhardt Sr. would drive a car, and in Richmond, it just seems like he was dialed in. He was going to win. So it's so nice to see Kevin Harvick win back to back this year, because he hasn't done anything hardly at all. And all of a sudden, he has 2 wins, 2 legitimate wins. It wasn't because of weather delayed or cut the race short, or because a bunch of people crashed, because Richmond doesn't have that much. It was just every combination of everything they did to prepare worked, and they won. And so it was great for Kevin. It was great for racing, because he is the oldest racer there now, and he may retire soon. Hopefully he doesn't. And if he keeps driving like this, I don't think he will retire. And he may be positioning himself to probably compete for the championship, which starts in a couple of weeks, with 10 races to go in about a couple of weeks. So if he can keep this momentum that he has, he can compete.
Bless you, Todd.
Bless you, Todd.
He sneezed. Yeah, he sneezes all in the microphone. Doesn't even matter what's going on. Go ahead, Stephen.
Yeah, he couldn't.
I was on mute.
No, you weren't.
Am I on mute now?
Yes.
No.
Yes, now you are.
No, he's telling you that so you can say stupid things. You're not on mute.
So, yeah, we're counting on it. So next week is Watkins Glen, one of my favorite races. The only thing bad about Richmond now is they need to change it. They need to do something with the track to change it, because this has been the best racing this year at every track except Richmond. And Richmond has been a bad track for years. It used to be one of the best tracks, one of the races you wanted to make sure you saw every year. It's not now, and it's a reason a lot of people they want to get new people in, because a lot of people that would go to the race do not want to go anymore, because it's just like watching slot car racing. It's not exciting. But the racing at most every other track, and Watkins Glen coming up this week is a road course. It's going to be so exciting. It's going to be amazing. And that's what Richmond needs to take even though it's just a regular short track. They need to take something away from another track that will make them a more competitive race, that's more fun for the fans to watch at the stadium or on TV.
All right. So what's coming up next, Stephen, in terms of so for those people like Todd who don't know anything about NASCAR, is there a what next couple races, playoffs, champion? What happens next?
Yeah, we have the playoffs.
The next week. You said the next race next week is where?
Is at Watkins Glen. And then
there's
a race, Watkins Glen in New York. And then it's Daytona. Then it's Daytona, and anything can happen at Daytona. It's a super speedway where it's usually a lot of carnage at Daytona. And then
when you say carnage, you mean it's a lot of crashes?
Yes, it's a lot of carnage. They're going 200 miles an hour. They're 5 wide. Just crazy. It's Daytona is known for having like the big wrecks and stuff like that. But then when the playoffs start, it's going to be so many different people that we're not used to being in here, because so many people who have never won a race have won this year. That's what's so exciting about this year, that it's more competitive. It's like we have Serena playing Serena, and it's so competitive. You never know how it's gonna end up, or you can have Tiger Woods. You get anything like that. That's how it is because they got the cars so much alike.
Well, he's probably, Todd, trying to make it so you understand. I said explain it for somebody like Todd. Yeah. That's why he said that.
Right.
Because I asked him to. You always looking to jump on him for some reason. Yeah, I'm sure you are. So next week, do you have any predictions for winners, Stephen?
Yeah, you have to look at Ross Chastain, his Chase Elliott, Kyle Larson. These guys are really good at road courses. And then there's some ringers like Allmendinger. He's a big time. He's in the lower section of the drivers. He's not with these drivers, but he'll jump in for road courses. Like you have your ringers that come in and they can do really well. And he's won plenty of road courses. The guy from Mexico, I can't think of his name, but the guy from Mexico is good. Suez number 99. He's with Ross Chastain. They have a 2-man team, and both of them are tearing it up this year. And they can both do great at road courses because the Suez from Mexico is amazing. Because that's what a lot of what they do as they're growing up. So he can do it great. And this is going to be a really exciting. Watkins Glen is one of my most favorite races that I am going to see one day. I haven't been yet, but this is a great race to watch. I very, very much looking forward to it.
All right. Thank you. We're going to move on. Aguna's not here
I'm
to
very much
talk about
looking
it.
forward to next week.
Why don't you watch it?
Oh, I'm not talking about that.
Why don't you watch a race?
Can I tell you what I'm talking about, please? Thanks.
No, we're not interested.
Yeah, move on, Stacy.
Okay, forget it then.
No, go ahead.
Welcome back. Turning now to sports, and the Phillies honor the 1980 World Series champion team today. Jamie Apodi joins us live in the studio where there were cheers, there were boos, there was a little bit of everything.
Yeah, basically summed it up perfectly. Controversy seems to follow Pete Rose wherever he goes, and today no different. Pretty remarkable day for the Phillies, not just because they honored their 1980 World Series championship team, but because they invited Rose to take part. He hadn't been back to the ballpark in Philadelphia since being banned from the game for betting on Major League Baseball 33 years ago. Rose given a pretty touching ovation, although there were definitely boos mixed in there. In an availability before the ceremony, Rose was asked by a female reporter about a statutory rape claim against him from 1973 that resurfaced in 2017. And he responded by saying, "It was 55 years ago, babe." When he was asked for a clarification afterwards, here's how he responded to that.
I'm going to tell you one more time. I'm here for the Philly fans. I'm here for my teammates, okay? I'm here for the Philly organization. And who cares what happened 50 years ago? You weren't even born. So you shouldn't be talking about it because you weren't born. And if you don't know a damn thing about it, don't talk about it.
So from a PR standpoint, it wasn't the best day for Pete Rose. The female reporter who asked the question originally later tweeted that Rose offered to sign 1,000 baseballs for her as a means of forgiveness for offending her. Now to the game where
Oh, that was hilarious. Aguna, he said, mind your business. You weren't even born back then. So what? I was accused of statutory, meaning a minor.
Yeah,
Mind your business, Aguna. He sure sounds like a Philly person, doesn't he?
Yeah, it sounds just like a Philly person, and I'm not condoning what had happened or what went down. But again, it's 55 years ago. And see, the thing about these reporters,
It wasn't 55 years ago.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
well, 45 years. It was more than 45
Yeah,
years.
it was 55 years ago.
Yes, Stacy.
It was. Look, I know I'm
55
46.
years
It's
ago.
about, yeah, so it's about over a half a century ago, right? And he's at the stadium. They're honoring the 80s legends from Philadelphia.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, this reporter comes in there and asks about this question. And see, what happens with these reporters, they're not doing it to really get or to speak or be an advocate for the victim or to try to really get at the story. They're doing it to get this shock value that the media does when they get these celebrities and these awkward moments. And so he reacted to that, right? Not saying it was right, wrong, or indifferent, because I know this is a different time, different age, but he's an old dude. He's an old man. And it's like, why are you trying to poo-poo on me when I'm trying to, I'm just trying to be here for the Philly fans, for the Philly organization. Now you want to bring this drama and controversy into the conversation. So I get what he was doing, but at the same time, it's like, my God, 55 years ago. Imagine if someone
but you can't
asked you something that you did when you were like 2 years old. Why did you not?
Can't, yeah, but listen, the man isn't innocent, Stephen. You know what I mean? He was betting on games while he was playing.
And now they do that all the time, right? They do that all the time now. So back then,
and no man is innocent, and he's been punished throughout his life for the things that he did wrong. He's been punished tremendously. And you know what? Now at his age, I've always been one. I've been a stickler for rules. You know, with baseball, don't let him in, don't let him in, don't let. But you know what? Now that his condition he's in, he's older. Just for the love of God. Just put him in there, just to make an old man happy. He'll probably die in a year. It's just something they can say, you know what, I got in. You know, because you know what? If it's based on talent, that man was talented. He deserves to.
Oh,
be
he's
there.
a legend. He's a legend.
He's a legend. He deserves to be there. So what I'm saying is, he's gotten old enough that we can give him clemency. After a while, you know, he's been in prison for so many years. Let's just let him out now and let him go into the Hall of Fame.
And about this statutory rape charge, I mean, were there ever charges filed, or was this an accusation? I mean, we don't know the details, but it happened in the 70s when a lot of crazy stuff was going on. But at the same time, it's like, are the victims?
And that had to happen. If it's 55 years ago, that had to happen in the 60s. Not the 70s. You can't count
70s,
either.
60s. Okay. Look, it was almost a half a
50 years ago.
It's almost a half a century
Maybe it was
55 years ago.
Maybe it was. I mean, he doesn't even remember.
It's close to 55.
Yeah, I don't know if he can remember how to tie his shoes. So it's like, you know, to ask him that question in that moment. If that was an issue, they should have probably had that ahead of time and not even invited him in there. But for the reporter to come at him like that in that moment to kind of get that reaction and not really jump at the story. Because I mean, clearly this story was probably out there way before this happened.
So this article
I've never heard about it.
I never heard about it either.
By Wayne Sterling. You see this
ago.
on CNN.com. Pete Rose dismisses questions over statutory rape claims. He said it was 55 years ago, babe. You're right, Aguna, 55 years ago, but he was banned, a lifetime ban from baseball in 1989. So if he had a lifetime ban, what is he doing here?
Yeah, give the man a bone. Just give him a bone.
Yeah. Well, we haven't heard from Cousin Todd.
And you won't.
Jesus Christ.
I don't care.
Yeah, we know. Okay.
It's I'm not saying he should be forgiven for that, but
yeah, you don't care about statutory rape. You don't care about those type of things.
Hey, Republican, I do care about that. This is why I said that Donald Trump was accused of raping his ex-wife, along with another socialite in New York. Of course I care about that.
Okay.
Okay, Deshaun, as you get ready to get on the bus, let's just start with this one. It's been 19 months since you played a game of competitive football. How are you feeling about that?
I'm super excited. I'm excited to get out there with my new teammates and go out there and compete. Each and every snap, I want to make sure I cherish that because I'm not sure when the next time I'll be able to get out there with those guys. So I'm super excited.
As you say that, your eligibility is still in question, and although this appeal is ongoing, I have to ask you, the initial ruling from Judge Sue Robinson made a very specific point of saying that your lack of remorse played into her decision-making. It's been a part of the narrative surrounding you. What is your response to that?
Look, I want to say that I'm truly sorry to all the women that I've impacted in this situation. My decisions that I made in my life that put me in this position, you know, I would definitely like to have back, but I want to continue to move forward and grow and learn and show that, you know, I am a true person of character, and I want to keep pushing forward.
Grow and learn. We fully expect that there will be some time that you are away from the team. What does your growth on a personal level look like? How are you spending that time?
I know I have a lot of work to put in, especially on the field, to be able to make sure I'm ready to play whenever that time comes, whenever I can step back on the field. But also, the biggest thing is I want to continue counseling, and I want to make sure that I'm growing as a person, as an individual, for my decision making on and off the field. And I want to make sure that, you know, I'm just involving in the community as much as possible. And that's for the Cleveland community, that's the NFL community, and beyond.
Okay, we appreciate the time, Deshaun.
Thank you.
All right, Aguna, I'll start with you.
Yeah, this is going to be an ongoing story this year about not only the punishment for Deshaun from a suspension standpoint, but just overall, following him along with the Brown organization, the way they gave him this max contract, and then now the suspension, the appeal of this suspension. It's going to be one of those soap opera type stories that are going to follow Cleveland this year. Cleveland is actually supposed to be pretty competitive in the AFC North. So you have the Browns, the Bengals, the Ravens, and of course there's always Steeler Nation supporting the Steelers. So it's going to be a competitive division. And then you're going to have these sideline storylines. And Deshaun, they're looking to do not a season-long ban for this year, which will put him at almost 2 years without taking a snap. Of course, the NFL wants money, so they're going to play both sides of the fence, in which they're going to appeal in order to show good graces not only to the victims but also to women who are clearly NFL fans. They don't want to act like they're insensitive there. But at the end of the day, they want money. They want people in seats. They want advertising dollars. So it's going to be one of those things where this thing is going to play out throughout the course.
Okay, but for them to say they don't want to be insensitive to women, but they hire him, they make him a leader.
Who is
how,
they?
how
That's
do you
Cleveland.
do that?
That's
Steven?
Cleveland, right? The NFL is taking this other
but
position
they hire him, make him a leader, and he was insensitive to women, whereas Colin Kaepernick was not insensitive to women, Stephen, but yet Deshaun Watson is getting another chance. You want to explain that?
Yeah, Deshaun Watson can play football. That's why he's getting another
What's
chance.
the point?
Kaepernick can't play football.
Crazy?
Kaepernick
won
football.
a Super Bowl.
He didn't win a Super Bowl. He went to the Super Bowl. I see where Stephen, and I don't necessarily agree completely with Stephen. I think Kaepernick
compare the two. Compare the two.
But compared to Deshaun Watson,
yes,
I think Kaepernick. Deshaun Watson, I think, is better than Kaepernick.
Yeah,
but at the same time, it's a different year. And
you got a top 3 all-time, maybe top 5 all-time quarterback compared to him. No, it's ridiculous. But
it's also times have changed. Times have changed also. I think even within this 4-year time frame, you see what the NFL did in response to Kaepernick, right? Whereas if the Kaepernick situation was happening today, it may not have the same effect as it did even 4 years ago. Like the owners were just so shocked and they didn't want anything to do with them. So they did that.
Politically, that
Kaepernick got a settlement out of the deal. And not to say that that's better than playing football, but there was some type of liability associated with it. So, yeah, you're right. If you want to just look at apples to apples, okay, he got blackballed, Deshaun Watson didn't. By the end of the day, they're both, I think that Kaepernick is going to be seen as kind of a hero, an icon, and, someone that stood up against the organization. There's a lot of fallout because of Kaepernick and the NFL. There's some fans that won't go back to the NFL because of the whole situation, whether they agreed with him or they didn't. He had an impact on the perception.
He hurt the NFL.
There's some fans that became more fans because of him. He did hurt the NFL in the sense of some fans on both sides kind of got turned off from the game because of the way they handled it. So
he did not hurt the NFL.
You watch sports to escape. And let me say this real quick about Deshaun Watson. Innocent people have no remorse. What does he have to be remorseful for if he's innocent? If he never did anything? What if none of these women are telling the truth? They didn't prove that. Nobody proved that he did anything wrong. It's all speculation on our point to say that he did. We don't know.
Come on, Stephen. A bunch of people. Look. I know we're going to try to argue the legalese of it to say, okay, charges, all this. Man, there's some there. Where there's smoke, there's fire.
That's not necessarily true.
All right, so we have a caller.
There could be a bunch of people trying to make money.
Who has called? Excuse me. We have a caller who has called my line, and I'm doing it. Nas, do you want to talk about how Deshaun Watson was at that preliminary or that game, and they were booing at him and chanting those 3 words.
Hey, what's up, y'all? Yeah, I mean, that's gonna be there for the rest of his career if he does play. That part of it is kind of what football fans do, so it's gonna get ugly. His lawyer advised him to make that statement about feeling remorseful. I don't know why they made that reversal. More than likely, they got some type of agreement with the NFL about, what they're doing with the suspension and everything else. But yeah, I don't know, man. All of this is ridiculous, and the NFL takes itself way too damn seriously. But yeah, I don't know what to say, man. Like, this dude is wrong. He's not like Laguna was just saying. Like, what he did wasn't illegal, but what he did is wrong. So I mean, I don't know what you do with that when we're still talking about the NFL, who discriminates against different groups, who actually has a hiring process that is blatantly racist and sexist. Like, there's so much wrong with the NFL. It's like hard for me to just look at Deshaun Watson and say, here's the problem. So that's all I got.
All right. Let's move on. I think I covered. Oh, one more thing. If you are interested in voting, this is what the NBA suggests.
At noon, the NBA announces there will be no games played on Election Day, Tuesday, November the 8th. The league saying it wants to support nonpartisan civic engagement and encourage fans to vote. Over the next few months, teams through their websites will provide information on their state's voting process and voter registration deadlines in the hopes that fans will share the knowledge with their families and their friends. The full upcoming NBA schedule will be announced tomorrow at noon.
Okay, so they just announced this a few hours ago. We have a comment on YouTube where Daryl and Franklin said they're still investigating. And I think Daryl and Franklin is talking about they're still investigating Deshaun Watson. Is that what she's talking about? She should call in with us if she wants to comment more. Are they still investigating, Aguna?
Yeah, they're still investigating. There's some civil suits. There's some things going on. So, yeah, there's still – I mean, they are still looking into it. There's probably going to be a settlement of some kind. At the end of the day, I think that there was some inappropriate behavior going on. Now, how we move and when we move past that, can we move past that? That's going to be for the courts to decide. But at the end of the day, it's going to be partially the drama of it all, right? The NFL is the male soap opera. I've always said that. It's going to continue to do so. And there are going to be people making money off of this on whatever side you fall on, right? So as far as the NBA and voting, I think this is a good thing. I think I've always been a proponent of, no matter if I agree with you or I don't agree with you, I think voting should be easy in this country. I think it's been, a lot of trash has been thrown at the voting system in this country just because it's a narrative that's being pushed right now because there are a lot of sore losers out there that can't accept election results. But I think we have the technology, we have the wherewithal, we have the know-how, the innovation to let everybody vote whenever. I mean, we could vote via phone if we wanted to, but people are going to start talking trash because at the end of the day, the politicians want to cast doubt on the results because it behooves them. They don't want we, the people, to actually have access to the ballot or to actually have access to voting because guess what? The more people vote, the more they're being held accountable and the more people they have to appeal to in order to get elected. And they don't want to appeal to the broad base. They only want to appeal to the wackos that support them in the most extreme position. So they're going to try to stop people from voting and cast doubt on our election process, even though they can't prove that there's fraud or anything like that. In fact, most fraud.
Well, this is really,
go ahead.
Really the first time we've had Major League sports somehow make a move to actually promote political things.
Because they see what's happening in the country. They see what's happening. They see what's happening in the country. They see that how democracy is being thrown onto the fire, and people just don't want to come together and talk through the differences. They see what's happening. So as a sports organization, they want to be, they said bipartisan, right? So they're like, hey, look, we're not going to be a distraction on election day. We're going to allow people, I think election day should be a federal holiday. People should be at liberty to go off and execute their civic duty of voting. That's what this democracy is all about. That is not a federal holiday, and you don't want people to vote because you don't necessarily want people that don't agree with you to vote is ridiculous. That just shows, going back to to the founding fathers, how they didn't want uneducated people to vote. They didn't want farmers, whether you're black, white, or slave, to vote because they knew they didn't trust your decision making. So
let me get off of the NBA for a minute to go back to this chant they were doing with Deshaun Watson.
Can we talk about
one of the NFL's most controversial players taking the field overnight in the midst of sexual assault allegations? ABC's Zachary Keish has more.
Playing on a $230 million guaranteed deal, the quarterback debuted with the Cleveland Browns last night.
Watson's rolling out, finds a target, overshoots.
24 women who were allegedly hired by Watson as massage therapists accused the quarterback of lewd sexual behavior. He has vehemently denied any non-consensual contact with any of his accusers. Prior to Friday's game, Watson and the team released this message.
I'm truly sorry to all the women that I've impacted in this situation. My decisions that I made in my life that put me in this position, I would definitely like to have back.
2 grand juries declined to charge him, and by June, Watson had settled 23 of the 24 suits against him. But the NFL determined he violated the league's personal conduct policy. On August 1st, Judge Sue L. Robinson, the NFL's disciplinary officer, handed Watson a 6-game suspension. Discipline can be appealed, which the league did at the direction of Commissioner Roger Goodell.
There was multiple violations here, and they were egregious, and it was predatory behavior.
The NFL wants Watson's suspension extended to 17 games, the full season.
All right, Zachary, thank you so much.
Well, hey there, GMA fans. Robin Roberts here. Thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Lots of great stuff here. So go on, click the subscribe button right over here to get more of awesome videos and content from GMA every day, anytime. We thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the morning on GMA.
All right, that's my soror, Robin. Her mother was a soror. So go ahead, Niles. What were you going to say?
What about the NBA or the NFL?
The NFL.
Oh, well, I mean, yeah. So, of course, Goodell, and remember, he's an employee of the owners. So the owners decided the PR backlash was too much. So they're going to recommend 17 games, and the arbiter said 6. So I'm guessing they're going to come somewhere in between. So maybe we see him get 10 to 12 or something like that. But this is just the NFL, on his normal cleanup duty. But no, there's nothing moral about it. There's nothing righteous about it. This is just what they do. So yeah, they're really good at collecting data. So I'm sure they've kind of figured out the move of the country on this. And to the NBA, the idea of people being registered to vote or allowed or being in a good position to vote, that's not political. The question
what is it? If it's not political, what is it?
Well, if you're an American citizen, you should have the ability and eligibility, and you're eligible to vote. You should be able to, be involved in the process.
Yeah, but they're saying, hey, don't. Yeah, but no, you hold on. What they're saying is, I think the NBA is trying to say, we want to encourage you. We don't want you to say, oh, I'm going to stay home in November because voting is usually the major elections are in November. We're going to encourage you to go vote instead of staying home and watching an NBA game because we're not going to have any on days for voting during November. No, right, November, the voting day, November 4th, November 8th, whatever day that is.
Right, but the process of voting is not supposed to have a political function to it. Now, however, the NBA's fan base is majority what? Majority folks who don't necessarily sign up for the Trump train. So they're going to take it as political, but the NBA realizes really quickly that their fan base is not only going to celebrate this, but they're going to use this to push forward. The NFL became a year-round league like in the year 2000, where even off-season news became important things for people to click on and read and kind of be interested in. The NBA is just now hitting that mark to where they're a year-round league, and this kind of plays also into that. So this is the NBA going after their own fans to a certain degree because this is what their fans actually want. They look at stuff like this and say, what's the motto? The NBA cares. So, of course, it doesn't, but that's what they're presenting. So it's not, like I said,
good PR.
You're so positive, Nas.
When they want somebody to be, well, I mean, look, we can't do their PR for them, right? Like, that's not the job, right? The job is to give our opinions on things, but we don't have to do their public relations for them. We realize what they're trying to do, and we also realize what the other side is trying to do. So it's what.
Yeah, but Stacey, can we talk about the most important sport that all of us love? The NFL's coming up on September 11. It's right around the corner. All the preseason is done. The football is coming around now. We have so much to talk about, and everybody on the show should every week represent their team, like I'm doing tonight.
Wait, no, go say that again. Say that again.
He's got a sock puppet. That's not your team anymore. I thought you liked the Raiders.
Well, no, I'll always love the Redskins. I don't know what team it is now, but I'll always be a fan of the Redskins because I've been that my whole life. So yeah, I'll always be a Redskins.
So
fan.
say that again, Nas.
I'm sure they're going to move on without you.
No, I'm going to be quiet because you're going to say I'm not being positive again.
No. You can be as positive as you want to be.
Negative as you want to be.
Todd is not an NFL fan. Todd think it's odd that they're starting the season on September 11th again.
Nas, we need you. I need you, Nas.
It's a Sunday.
Because on September 11, when it happened, they canceled football, and it was one of the worst days in NFL football fans' life. That when they canceled football because of 9/11, it was one of the worst days ever. So for them to have the NFL on 9/11, it makes it one of the best days ever because we can remember and we can do a lot to do in remembrance and put it on the forefront while the football games are on. And we can all remember 9/11 because when we didn't have football, but before that happened, a lot of things shut down. But when football stopped, I said, I think the world just ended because we don't have the NFL anymore.
It's the second Sunday in September. That's when the NFL starts.
It is. It happens to be September 11th, right?
And it happens to be September 11th, which
right.
they're gonna.
But it's cool that they're doing it, and they're not like we're not going to do anything. We're not going to skip it because this. They can make it so much more special, or make it special because everybody lost so much when 9/11 happened. Now, and we can all get together. This is what sports is good for. We can all get together and enjoy.
So basically, the NFL wants to tie itself to Americana. The idea is hot dogs, beer, and football. That's what you want to sell your brand as. So as a part of that, you will also do September 11th. Now, Stephen, who would be a prime example of somebody who they would be targeting, he's taking it as, hey, man, this is that terrible day, and we're still here. We're still celebrating, and we're having football too. So he'll be able to buy a 9/11 souvenir cup, a hot dog, a beer, and everything else, and he'll be a happy fan. You see how it works?
A PACT Act is the least we can do for the countless men and women, many of whom may be in this room, for all I know, who suffered toxic exposure while serving their country. The law expands access to health care and disability benefits for veterans harmed by toxic exposure. It empowers the Department of Veterans Affairs to move quickly to determine service members' illness and related military service to see if they qualify, and for families of veterans who died from toxic exposure. This law is long overdue, but we finally got it done together. And I don't want to hear the press tell me Democrats and Republicans can't work together. We got it done, and we got it done together. So God bless you all. You are the backbone, the very spine of this country.
Hi, everyone. George Stephanopoulos here. Thanks for checking out the ABC News YouTube channel. If you'd like to get more videos, show highlights, and watch live event coverage, click on the right over here to subscribe to our channel. And don't forget to download the ABC News app for breaking news alerts. Thanks for watching.
So let's start with Cousin Todd. Is President Joe Biden starting to look a little bit better after all these wins?
Yeah, he is. And because they're not just wins, they're policies for the people. Anybody who would vote against the military for those burn packets they received, only a Republican, a Trump supporter would do that. So that, and then the other things that came along with that was the healthcare, expanding the Affordable Health Care Act. That's great. The cap on medication cost, $2,000 a year for people on Medicare. So all those things are good for people like Keith and Stephen, though they fight against it. They vote against themselves. So anyway, Biden is looking really good right now. So November might not be as bad as people think.
So I as I sat here and watched, I look at Keith shake his head. Why were you shaking your head, Keith, to what Cousin Todd was saying about how good President Biden is currently looking after these legislative wins?
You don't need the medication capped at $2,000 a year?
I don't need
on Social
help.
Security?
I don't need government's help. I don't need larger government taking more of my money and then putting it back out there saying that they're taking care of me. I don't need that, and neither do you. The government
So then you don't need Social Security.
Power. Government is expanding its power more and more over all of our lives and every aspect of our lives. And that is not constitutional, neither is it moral, because the government is going to waste more money than it will spend. All this money that it's got, all this money that we have spent and are keeping on spending, it's not to help the people. When are you going to wake up?
Did you hear the part where I said,
if they were to help the American people, then we wouldn't have as much a need.
Okay, did you hear the part where I said you won't pay over $2,000 a year for your medications? You're poor, Keith. You can't afford to pay over $2,000 a year for medication.
Well, first of all, you don't know what I can afford. And
well, when I say poor, I don't mean living on the street. I just mean
absolutely incorrect.
No, what I mean is a teacher's salary, for example.
Our government is destroying our civil society. You see what happened in COVID. They couldn't even take care of all the people. So if you want them to have more power over the people,
let's just deal with it.
Then
Can you just deal with what he passed?
The government
$35.
That's the only good thing about COVID is it showed us how weak the government really is when it comes to
$35 for your insulin. So isn't that a good thing? As opposed
we
to
don't need insulin. We don't need insulin.
I don't need insulin.
Okay, well, there are some people in the world. Let me bring Nas in. There are some people in the world who do need insulin.
I don't need it.
Nas, you want to talk about the wins that President Biden has had? It seems as though his experience in government has worked towards his favor in being able to make deals so that legislatively certain laws can be brought to him to be signed.
No, it was
so about
all Democrats.
So if you start off and say, hey, we're going to do this extremely radical thing that's going to change and help a lot of people's lives, but I don't know if we could get certain people to agree on that, so we're going to have to water it down a bit. And then after we water it down, we'll slap a bipartisan label on it and say it's a win. That's kind of the period that we're in. Now, the flip side to that is, as much as I want to criticize Biden for that, we got to remember the Republicans have taken a stance since 2008 of no wins for the other party. So even if it's something like the soldier bill you guys were talking about, the Burn Act, like if it's something like that, even that they would vote against. We go back to the formula, the baby formula, where they say, oh, nope, can't have that. No win for him. So, yeah, there's a certain amount of just stigma with everything that's going to be brought up as far as bills. And yeah, you congratulate the Biden administration on getting some of these things done, but you do have to look at the limited range of some of these things that have been passed, because as usual, these are centrist bills. And if you know anything about America over the past 50 years, you would know we've governed from the center, and that's hate to say this, but that's kind of why we're in the position that we're in now. But I'll end there.
So, Stephen, let me say, Joe Biden has overseen gas prices fall. Late last month, he oversaw the death of or us killing Al-Qaeda leader Ayman al-Zawahiri on the balcony of his Kabul home with a precision drone strike. He has proven detractors wrong from multiple directions, and even though Roe versus Wade was overturned, even though there have been different spikes of COVID. It seems like legislatively, he has done as good as any president could have done in his position because of his political experience. Wouldn't you agree with that?
No, not at all. If anybody thinks that Joe Biden has done anything good for this country, they're lying, or they're lying to themselves, or they're ignorant. Joe Biden hasn't done anything that's been good for this country. Not one thing. And the last thing he just did, he doubled the amount of the IRS agents. You think that's a good thing? It gave them billions more dollars to go after you. To go after you. Do you think that what they're doing is going to benefit us, the normal, average, everyday person? No. What they're doing is not. And if you think you're above the normal, average, everyday person, you're not. Because what they are doing is trying to destroy us and that are midway, and those of us that are way down on the bottom. All they want to do is eliminate everything else and get everything for them for the very top. They are elitists at the very top, and they are going to destroy us. They're going to tax us. Small businesses are going to be taxed out of commission. They won't be able to run their business anymore. This is what it's all about. This is what COVID was about. They shut down small businesses. They left Home Depot and Lowe's and stuff like that open, but the small little mom and pop shop, they shut down because you know what? They can't control those people. They want every one of us to work for Amazon and Walmart and stuff like that, just so we can just be producers and do the menial jobs that they want. This is not, and nothing Joe Biden has done has been good for this country. Gas has come down a little bit. Sure, it's come down a little bit. Gas fluctuates, but it's still a lot worse than it was when he took office. It's not good right now.
So,
and you know what? It's going to go up.
And
this Green Deal that he's doing is going to hurt us. Electricity, it's going to hurt our gas prices. It's going to hurt everything. Everything is going to get hurt because of everything Joe Biden has done. You are lost your mind if you don't understand what's going on. You're completely unplugged from what reality is.
Real quick, Keith.
I got a quick question for Aguna, because Aguna is Mr. Capitalist. He understands these things. I wonder, if the government wants to increase its employees, 87,000 new hirees. Usually when a company does that, a private company, there is a product or a service that has gained them, higher income to be able to, count the cost and be able to do that. Where is government going to get that kind of money for 87,000 new agents with pensions?
Okay, wait a minute, Aguna. Hold it 1 second.
$1 trillion deal.
Aguna's next, but Aguna, in addition, Aguna, to what Keith questioned, I'm going to say this. According to the CNN.com article written by John Harwood on August 14th, he says Biden is no LBJ. He didn't do Social Security. He's not FDR, Medicare, affordable, he didn't do any of that. But what he did do was the 2021 infrastructure law, which his predecessors were unable to do, the semiconductor bill, the burn pits, new healthcare law, and the Inflation Reduction Act. So does that show some sort of political skill in terms of his abilities?
So here's the thing. It's funny because as I listen to Stephen and Keith on this show, you can tell they're counting wins and losses not based on substance, but based on whether Joe Biden is going to get credit for it. They're not looking at the bills. They're spitting ideological narratives on the show. And the cool thing about this show, Stacey, and you protect them because you don't allow them to explain their positions. They're just saying these sound bites as if we're actually going to listen to this crap. No, look at the bill. Back in the day,
I protect them.
Can I finish?
I'm not protecting them.
Can I finish?
I'm allowing them their freedom, like United States. They have First Amendment rights, and I'm allowing them their First Amendment rights.
Can I finish my point? Because I listened to that.
I'm not protecting them. Go ahead.
And it was ridiculous. So here's the thing. Back in the day, you had Democrats and Republicans, and they didn't get 100% of what they wanted. They actually had a little bit of what they wanted, a little bit of what they wanted. But as Americans, things move forward. So what you're seeing now in this hyper partisan environment, you see the Democrats actually legislating and the Republicans and their base basically saying, okay, we're not being held accountable on what we're passing legislatively. Trump only passed one thing legislatively. That was the tax cut. He didn't do anything else. Everything else was through executive order, right? You actually see Joe Biden passing things legislatively because, we have majorities in Congress and in the Senate and the House,
yeah,
right?
you have majority.
You may not like. Can I finish? I didn't interrupt.
You have majority. That's the only reason
I haven't finished.
Not one Republican.
See, this is what trolls
not
do.
one Republican.
Mute Stacey. I didn't say anything. I purposely didn't say anything.
Not one
right?
Republican.
This is what happens when you have trolls coming on and trying to make points and trying to just make zingers versus substance. The Republican Party has no platform right now. Their whole party platform is culture wars, anti-wokeness, and just trying to stop the Democrats. The Democrats are actually pushing their legislation. Whether you agree with it or not, it's actually been effective because to sit here and say, okay, government is bad until you need government. As soon as a disaster comes, what is Keith going to do? He's going to call FEMA. He's going to run to the government to save him. Government regulation done in moderation can actually help. Most of these employees that he was talking about, if you think about what government has done from a tax incentive standpoint for corporations, handing over the technology, they created the internet so that other businesses can thrive off of it. All this crap about, you didn't read the legislation. Clearly, the IRS workers that they're hiring is because they're going to raise taxes on corporations making $1 billion, not the mom and pop shops on the street and things like that.
Exactly.
Nobody wants government to expand, right? You want to regulate the expansion of government, but you can't hide behind ideology. You have to look at the bill. You have to look at the good, bad, and the ugly of it. And as a human being or as an American, there are certain things you may not agree with, but you can't always get 100% of what you want. Some of the stuff is good in the bill. I'm just, as a moderate, government do something. Don't sit here and just hide behind your ideology and have to troll your way through making points. You're not on social media. You actually have to explain yourself, Stephen and Keith. And when you explain yourself, the more you talk, the dumber we get because you have no points. Look at the bill, read the legislation, educate yourself. You're not going to get 100% of what you want. There's going to be things that you like. There's going to be certain things that you don't like. Believe it or not, Americans vote. Not all Americans think alike. It's called democracy. I know that offends you, but democracy works.
Can you answer my question?
Todd.
Thanks. What's your question, Keith? What is your question? Explain your question.
No, ma'am.
Why is the government hiring 87,000? Did you look into how many tax credits that the government gives for corporations to hire? Because you also have to rein in, not all regulation is bad. There are certain things that the government does, services they provide. The infrastructure bill is actually going to spur economic development up and down. You believe in trickle-down economics? Well, the government kind of spurs a lot of that by, having different regulations and things in place. You go into a fast food restaurant, there are certain things that the government calls labels. They tell you they have to put the number of calories on what they're serving. That's government regulation, okay? Now, the same regulation that you keep on touting as energy independence under Trump, in which the government said, okay, corporations in the United States, you can export oil, you can sell it on the foreign market, yet yahoos like yourself and Steven sit here and try to tout as if we have some type of energy shortage, when in actuality, you're just dealing with the free market. You're dealing with oil brokering, which they're selling it to the highest bidder. But you don't understand that.
So let me understand the difference in that and capitalism.
All right, and this is your last question, Keith.
Capitalism. You don't believe in capitalism, Keith. Stop pretending.
Keith,
Stop pretending you
this
believe
is
in
your last
capitalism. You
response, Keith. Make it quick.
Thank you, Stacey. All right, so I'm just saying that you can correct me if I'm wrong. So you're saying that the government which takes money out of the private sector, it has to.
I didn't say that. How do they do that? They do taxes.
Print it up. I mean,
taxes. So they take money out of the private sector. You're not talking about incentives, though. They give a lot of tax credits. Go ahead.
So the government, 87,000 new employees with new pensions.
Where are they working? Where are they working? What are you talking about? What agency?
Oh, they're
you got to let him finish.
Well, he's spouting numbers. What agency are you talking about?
IRS. Okay. The IRS.
They're hiring 87,000 new IRS employees.
87,000. Yes. That's
okay. And what are they going to be doing?
That's a part of the bill. Okay. Well, before we even get
to, they're going to be taxing corporations making $1 billion, and you see how these corporations
ask a question so that we can move on. I just want to make it clear.
Add some substance to it.
87,000 IRS agents, armed agents, because they will be armed and ready to use force.
How do you know? Armed with what? A pen?
Because that's what they said. That's what's in the bill.
Okay. This is it. This is going nowhere. You guys are going nowhere. I was waiting for Keith. No, I was waiting for Keith to do a question. Aguna, you kept blocking him every time he tried to give it. I don't care. I don't care. I don't care.
Okay,
I don't care. You have to let him finish. I don't care if his question is senseless. Let him say it so we can move on.
He's just spouting narrative and rhetoric.
Asking him, but you can't keep stopping him for every senseless syllable. You have to let him finish.
Stop protecting
and then we can move on because we're not getting anywhere.
Shame on you, Stacey.
We're not getting anywhere. Finish your question. You've got 2 seconds, Keith.
Well, 87,000 new hirees in the federal government means they're taking money from somewhere. They'll either print it up or they will take it out of the private sector and more out of the private sector, which does not help the economy and the American people, the majority.
Okay. You can't make a statement. You have to make a question. Remember, Keith, you're supposed to do a question, Keith, not a statement.
Well,
now, Aguna,
do you
finish your answer? Okay, Aguna, do your answer to his statement because he never asked a question.
He's sitting here trying to cherry pick based on these 87,000 IRS agents that he pulled out his behind. Yeah, they're going to actually tax corporations more. There's some residual effects of that. Yes. These armed IRS agents aren't coming to your home to take your stuff. The IRS, this is ridiculous. Look at the bill. Look at what's going on. These corporations make money hand over fist based on tax credits.
Did you want to say something else?
Amazon moved into Northern Virginia. They're not paying $1 of taxes.
All right, go ahead, Nas.
You're worried about the wrong thing.
But look, okay, so Keith comes out with the number 87,000 more personnel for the IRS. Now, why would a country want to do that? America's not going to be the only one to do it. You're going to see the other major powers in the world also do that. Why? Because tax collection is a big part of your credibility as a nation going forward to get other countries to invest in your nation. Greece cannot collect tax revenue. Why? They had a laissez-faire attitude toward taxes for a long time. Now they don't make much money after the 2008 meltdown. And because of that, people don't want to invest in Greece. So America, China, all the major powers of the world will have an expanded arm for tax revenue collection. Now, as Aguna was trying to explain, the majority of the personnel will be going to big projects. Like if you got a corporation who's been getting away with certain tax avoidance, you need a lot of accountants, lawyers, and people able to look through the loopholes that they're using to be able to get that revenue. So you're going to use them to close some of those loopholes and catch people in the act of tax avoidance. Now, the downside to this is, yes, there's going to be a lot of working people who get audited as well, who've been coloring outside the lines as well, because they're going to be more proficient at going after people who color outside the lines. But again, the major point of this is tax collection, because you, as a nation, if you want to continue to have your currency be at least in the top 2 or 3,
the world reserve currency,
the world that people see as
the dollar is the world reserve
your country is a place for solid investment, you have to guarantee that generations from now, you're still going to be a country that they would want to invest in. And the way to do that is by what? Tax revenue. So that.
I'm sorry. Hold on, please.
As soon as he goes outside and the street light isn't on, he's going to be.
Okay, so before I move on, let me bring.
So as soon
Cousin Todd,
issues, you're going to be complaining. You're not going to be talking about taxes then. As soon as the police don't show up when you call 911, you're going to be complaining. As soon as FEMA doesn't show up when there's an earthquake in California, you're going to be complaining. So you don't like government till you need government. So shut up with all that nonsense.
Okay, Cousin Todd.
This topic has gone on way too long.
That's what I'm saying. And, that was all because of Keith. Keith kept that mess going on, and it made no sense.
It's ideology.
Yeah, but you got to remember, a lot of people on the right are vulnerable to some of the propaganda that's out there, YouTube, Facebook, everything else, social media, to where they put up this fear-mongering that came out this week, where they said, oh, they're coming to get you. They're hiring IRS agents. They're going to have guns. And they're going to be coming to you. So, like, we see how this works. That ecosystem travels right to this show's doorstep by two members who come on and repeat those talking points word for word.
And Stephen can't even spell IRS. He can't spell IRS.
No,
All right, let me share my screen with you.
And that's an S. Maybe Oguna can't read.
Stop, Stephen. The more you talk, the dumber we get.
No, the more I talk, the more wrong you are.
Oh, that's a good one.
All right. Okay, wait a minute. I have a caller. Excuse me. I have a caller on. Welcome to Sporlitiks, and for all what do I call? I have a caller
Sports and politics.
Welcome to Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. I'm sorry, I got a little tongue tied, as I wanted to say, for disclosure, the caller called me. So go ahead, caller. This is my soror, Darylyn. What's your comment?
I just want to say that the IRS is yes, they are hiring agents according to the new law that President Biden signed today. However, in a letter to members of the Senate, the IRS commissioner says that their investigation of enforcement resources are designed around the Department of Treasury's directive that audit rates will not rise relevant to recent years for households making under $400,000 a year. So unless you're making that much, then you have nothing to worry about. So with your information, in my opinion, is not correct. We look at the media and look at what different newscasters are saying instead of looking at the facts and doing our own research. That's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you. So I'm sharing my screen. Please look at the screen. It says Giuliani is told by the New York Times. This is NewYorkTimes.com. Giuliani is told he is a target in Trump election inquiry in Georgia. He's set to appear in Atlanta tomorrow. So all of our Flow Network, Stephanie Stallworth's Flow Network viewers, Giuliani is going to be in your town tomorrow, Wednesday. And his lawyers, it says, unsuccessfully argued that he should be interviewed by video rather than in person. But he's going to appear in person. And more than likely, he will do the same thing that this person did.
Taking the Fifth Amendment, like you see on the mob, right? You see the mob takes the Fifth. If you're innocent, why are you taking the Fifth Amendment? Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment, Fifth Amendment. Horrible. Horrible.
I want the Fifth Amendment. I want immunity. The reason they get immunity is because they did something wrong. They didn't do anything wrong. They don't think in terms of immunity. Taking the Fifth Amendment, think of this, over and over.
And if you're not guilty of a crime, what do you need immunity for, right? Taking the Fifth Amendment, the whole thing, it's a mess.
Pled the Fifth. Never, that's the end of him. Ay, ay, ay. He pleaded the Fifth Amendment. Wait, what are we going to do with this guy? What happened? He pleaded the Fifth, right? He pleaded the Fifth. Where is he? This is like a third world country, folks. It's terrible. This is really, we bring it up, this is like Watergate, only it's worse.
It's worse than Watergate. It's a bigger deal than Watergate. So many people took the Fifth Amendment, there was nobody left. They all got immunity deals. You're guilty, you're guilty. We'll give everybody immunity. Our country, in terms of justice, has never reached a lower point.
Are you confident the president will not take the Fifth in this case?
Oh, how could I ever be confident of that?
All right, so let's start with Cousin Todd. Cousin Todd, the former president, said that that's what he thinks about people who take the Fifth.
Of course he did. When you are a Republican, you have to know how to flip-flop, right, Stephen and Keith? First you say, oh, if you take the fifth, you're guilty. This is Trump, of course. But then he takes the fifth over 400 times. It is the most ridiculous thing for you all to keep supporting him. He is a common criminal. He's a fraud. And Stephen knows it because Stephen said so already. But then he had to retract it because he's a Republican.
I never said that.
You did. You said
they never got. What have they got him on? Nothing. They haven't got him on anything.
First of all, you cannot take any papers from the White House. Do you know that?
Yes, you can. Barack Obama took 33 million papers from the
What
White House.
aboutism? You're falling for it.
Whataboutism. Barack Obama said whataboutism. It's a fact.
Yeah,
Barack Obama took 36 million.
Yeah,
and they haven't done anything with him.
Defend Trump without deferring, Stephen.
Obama or what Hillary
Man
did.
up, Stephen. Defend
It's
Trump
not
without
about
deferring.
whatism. It's what they're doing is anything they can do to stop Donald Trump.
Who is they? Who is they?
The left that doesn't. The left that's in charge of this world that doesn't want him to win. That doesn't want him to run for president again. This is all about stopping Donald Trump from running for president.
No, it's not about him being an idiot. It's about running for president.
You're scared. He's your
boogeyman. He mishandled information. What is he going to do with you?
No, he did not. No, he did not. You know that's a lie.
So, I asked the question.
The truth is, Donald Trump did nothing wrong, and everything else that the FBI is doing, the
Stop
FBI
defending the
needs to be
indefendable.
dissolved.
This is
What
ridiculous.
the FBI is doing is wrong. What they did to Trump was wrong. They never treated a president like that before. The left, the FBI is part of the left. They're part of the Democrat
now they're part
Party,
of the left.
and they
Now
have
they're
been
part
part
of
of
the
the
left.
Democrat Party. And what they're doing is trying to keep Donald
When they were
Trump
going after
from
Hillary,
running for
they weren't,
president.
though.
And you know what, Aguna, you're not
When
stupid.
they went after Hillary, they
Aguna,
weren't
as
the left.
stupid
Now
as
they're
you want
the
to act
left.
tonight, you're not that stupid.
All right.
You're not
Okay,
stupid.
excuse me.
This is exhausting.
All right. So wait a minute. First off, Keith, you got to keep your head up, honey. You can't keep putting your head down. Or Todd
Rogaine, man. Come on, Keith.
and
Is
Aguna
that a
are going to
punt
have
or a
a
bald spot?
field day. Nas, what's your comment?
Keith has like a nappy Jerry curl.
You guys brought up him with his Fifth Amendment commentary or whatever. So again, he always moves at self-interest, so we're not surprised that he would make a comment like that for years when it was in his interest to do so because the other side was, being questioned. Now, every American should have the ability to use the Fifth Amendment where necessary. There's nothing wrong with the Fifth Amendment. The only problem is when you're a hypocrite and you make the statements that he did. Now, get into Giuliani actually having to show up in person. This is going to get interesting. For those who aren't aware, Giuliani, over the past few years, has shown a decline in faculties. He's butt dialing reporters, giving people information that he doesn't want to give. We saw the press
Joe
conference.
Biden, your president.
Seasons. So, he's probably not going to do good on the stand. And I'm assuming, yes, he's going to use the Fifth. And I'm also wondering if there's a deal out there for Rudy for certain things that he knows because, he's old New York. He was around Trump for a long time. And his foolishness that has always been rewarded may be coming to an end because he's an easier target. And I don't know financially if he's going to be able to handle this weight. So, yeah, this is going to be interesting in Georgia. Finally get Rudy on the record. And he's going to have to stare, he's going to have to stare into he's going to have to stare back at America and give this assessment of what some people called America's mayor so long ago, who has, proved himself to be kind of a bumbling idiot. And the other interesting part is, I don't know if Trump is having difficulty getting certain level of a certain level of law firm. But when you see these people he's pushing out to speak for him, like these people straight off of television, lawyers, and Rudy, it's just like, dude, you've got the weight of the world coming down on your neck, and this is who you chose to defend you. So good luck. We'll see.
So my question is, Lindsey Graham, he tried to testify from afar, and the court in Georgia said no. Same thing with Rudy Giuliani. The question, and I did ask Keith this offline earlier this week, former President Trump, if the FBI took those papers and they found he had nuclear codes, is that a cause for treason, Stephen?
Yeah.
Is that a treason cause? Stephen,
We're talking to you.
Stephen, that's for you.
There's no treason. I thought you were talking to Keith. No, there's no treason. There's no nuclear codes. This crap they made up on Friday. So all weekend, everybody would talk about these nuclear codes and this nuclear stuff that he has. All of that was BS from the very start. The whole FBI raid is BS from the very start.
Who made it up?
Because Donald Trump and his lawyers have been cooperative from the very beginning. They know everything Donald Trump has had. All of this is a spectacle. All of this is a show. All of this is
why would they do that, knowing that a Yahoo like yourself would go right there?
Because all this does is make people like Keith and I more solidified and backing and supporting Donald Trump.
I get it.
Because he's not guilty. The FBI went in there
FBI
on a
director
fishing exhibition.
out there
Shut
like
Laguna up. They went in there on a fishing exhibition to try
Why
to see
would they
anything
do
they
that?
can find on Donald Trump for 9 hours. What we need to
Why
find
would
out
they
is
do
what
that,
they were
knowing that
specifically
guys like
looking
yourself
for.
would say this
They
crap?
even took his passports, Stacy. They took anything they could find because it was a fishing exposition. It had nothing to do. They made sure Donald Trump was
Why
out of
would they
town,
do that?
and they made sure that that they could go in there at free will for 9 hours and go through his entire house. And it's wrong. No president's ever been
What did
treated like
what
that.
did they get?
Nobody in America.
What did they
should
get
be
when they went
like
in
this.
there?
It's wrong.
He's just
What
What
it
did
is
they
wrong.
take
You
from
know
the
it's
test?
wrong. And if you're on the side that agrees with the
here it goes.
FBI
Here it
or
goes.
the
Listen
left,
closely.
then
Listen
you are
closely,
wrong.
audience.
You are not a good person. If you agree
Okay.
that
All right.
the
Following
FBI
the
and
law,
what they did,
you're not a
you're
good
a
person.
bad person.
Donald
You're
Trump
either
is
too
not
political
All right, so
or
we're
too
going to have our
stupid
caller.
to know
We're
that
going to
it's
have
wrong.
our caller. We're going to have our caller speak. Darylyn, what was your comment about Barack Obama's papers? And
I said Barack Obama's papers are in his library, in his presidential library, not in his house, in a basement, in a locker somewhere.
and what did you say about a good person?
What?
You were talking about a good person, you said?
And then I said, you said if you believe the FBI who raided Trump's estate or Mar-a-Lago is a good person, you're not a good person if you think the FBI was right in doing so. We won't know the facts until they come out.
So, Todd,
Exactly. Let the investigation play out. I don't know who.
The paperwork to find out who saw those papers.
okay.
I didn't know you. I didn't know you could lift fingerprints off paper.
Yeah, that's interesting that you can lift those fingerprints off paper to see who may have had their fingerprints on the paper that showed the nuclear codes. But, Cousin Todd, I would ask you a question, but I'm just going to let you comment because you won't answer my question anyway.
Yay. Thank goodness. And do not let Stephen talk until I'm finished. Now, they want to start the story from the middle. Start from the beginning. He had no business taking all of those boxes of files to his house. Now, a sensible, rational person can agree with that. Had no business doing that. Then they asked him for them back. He didn't give them back. Do you know it's been 19 months now? So he gave back a few boxes, and his lawyer said there's no other classified documents here in these boxes. There were. So he was wrong to do that. Then he was wrong not to send them back. So then when they came to get them, now all of a sudden it was a raid. It wasn't a raid. They just came to get the papers that he stole from the White House. Now,
So,
wait a minute. What about if, to put it on a level that Stephen and Keith can understand, if they worked in a jail facility, a prison system, and you took things from that prison system to your house, you would be in jail and fired. If you worked at the post office and took things that didn't belong to you to your house, you would be fired and you'd be in jail. These were top secret papers. He can't.
and what
do
would he
that.
have done with these top secret papers, Cousin Todd?
He could have done anything with them. He could have
And
sold them
He
to
can
one
have copies of them.
They
and
weren't
sold
true.
them to one of his boyfriends, the one he sends love letters to back and forth, or Putin. So you can't do that. I don't know why he would send them to Putin. Maybe he's great and
He
bad.
finances his campaign. Look,
Okay.
all of a sudden, we're no longer a country of laws. Like,
not when it comes to
nobody,
Trump. No.
Look, if you're Trump, he's not above the law. As Americans, we should be sitting back and like, look, if this president or so-called president is willing to be willy-nilly with documents, what do you think he's going to do to you? Keith and Stephen, Trump doesn't give a damn about you. Look at the people that have gone through the White House and he's kicked out and he's fired. And those were his friends. What do you think he's going to do to you? He's not controlling these documents properly, right? You had information about overseas operations and operatives overseas that could be compromised because they're not in a skiff. You have he's showing them the foreign dignitaries, reporters can get a hold of them. They're not secure. This is an American, look, we're trying to say, look, as a country, we need to secure our secrets. Now, to make this about the FBI and the
Stephen would agree with
and all
that.
these other people coming down here,
has a horrible reputation.
Why is this fealty to Trump? Why are you on Trump's? I mean,
it's
I'm
not about Trump,
but it's like you're doing everything you can to defend the indefensible.
Yes.
It's not about Trump. American secrets should be kept safe.
So my question is, if it's not, I'm going to stop you all for a minute. If it's not about Trump, I'm thinking it's about power. Let me share my screen because
don't feed into these yahoos.
It's about power because look what the Prime Minister of Australia did. This was the New York Times article written by Damien Cave, August 16th today, updated at 9:12 a.m. The secret powers of an Australian Prime Minister. Scott Morrison was busy during the pandemic. In addition to being Prime Minister, he covertly put himself in charge of 5 ministries. They say he damaged democracy. And that's my point. When you have people in those positions and they take it upon themselves to put themselves in charge all over the world, and I guess they thought they were doing it to save people, they're really damaging democracy. Don't you think that's true, Keith?
Yes, as a matter of fact,
we don't even know
there is no bigger administrative state in America than in the federal government. And Joe Biden, I guarantee you, is not making all the decisions. The administrative state is making decisions for him. And Joe Biden, you know, the EPA, for example, you know, the energy dependent, and they are making decisions that are stifling our growth and our ability to produce energy for the people to use. And that is a fact. So what you're saying is true, actually. So I would agree with you. And let me just say this. The Article 2 of the Constitution, Section 1 says, the executive power shall be vested in a president of the United States of America. Who was president? President Trump. We cannot deny him the power of what the Constitution says, the executive power. So I would say that
no one denied him.
No
one denied him.
Executive order. Then
no one denied him power when he was president.
And all the
what
rest.
are you talking about?
I don't know what he's talking about. I'm talking about. I'm going to move on. I'm going to move on because this is really ticking me off. I'm having problems with people. I'm having problems with people
and just
taking
because
over democracy and thinking that they are bigger than anyone else and they are bigger than any type of law all over the world. For instance, after a bitter contest, Kenyan opposition leader rejects election result. Raila Odinga said that the result announced on Monday, declaring his rival, William Ruto, as president-elect, should be annulled. The dispute looks set to go to court. This is the same thing that happened in the United States when former President Donald Trump said he was the winner and Biden was not. What is going on in the world that everyone wants to stay in power and put themselves in charge of a bunch of different ministries all over the world without the people putting them in power? I'll start with Cousin Todd. Wait, okay, go ahead, Cousin Todd.
They're taking a page out of America's book. They saw how Trump did it, so they figured they'll do it. They knew Trump was a little bit dumb, so they figured they're much smarter, so they'll do it. But this is what happens when you get corrupt people in office. Now, to keep giving excuses, and the one I think is the most devious is for these Republicans, which I think is great because they're eating themselves. They're pitting Republican against Republican. The FBI has always been Republican, always. And so now, all of a sudden, the FBI and police are the bad guys. Since when? I thought they respected the men in blue and the FBI was the greatest thing. And now that Trump brainwashed them, FBI is crooked. Oh, the FBI is hard. It's amazing how weak-minded these people are. And Trump knows that. And so Trump loves the uneducated because he said so. And people that fall for this kind of, you have to be super dumb. Like, for example, Stephen said back when he used to use his common sense, Donald Trump is calling you stupid. When
I don't love Donald Trump. I'm a never Trumper.
Sure. Oh, sure.
I'm a never Trumper.
And look, man,
because I think for myself.
Trump. You're defending Trump left and right.
Yeah.
Man. Come on,
I'm a never Trumper because I think for myself.
So then should he
I
have
can
taken
pick the things that Trump does well,
America.
and I can tell you the things that Trump does that's not well.
Was it
But you
wrong for
can't,
him to
like,
take
everything
those
the
papers
left
from the
does,
White
you
House?
support. Everything the left does
Look,
or do, no, you
hey,
support.
this is what
Because you're a good
Stephen never
Republican.
answered the
He's trying to
question.
defer.
You're a good
What do you like
Republican.
about Trump? What don't you like about Trump? Why are you defending Trump?
And should he have taken those papers from the White House?
I don't
No,
think
that's
Trump
the
is good
question.
when it comes to the Second Amendment. I don't
Okay,
think Trump is
let's
good
move
when it
on
comes
because,
to denouncing.
I gotta
terrorism
move
and
on.
shooting
I can't take
Yeah.
this.
I don't
Nas,
think
let me get
Donald
Nas
Trump
in
is
here.
good at
Let me
January
get Nas
6th.
in. Nas, you want to talk about these power hungry people all over the world and what's going on? And will Liz Cheney hold on to her seat? Will Sarah Palin win the congressional seat in
Prisoners
Alaska?
January 6th
And
deserve to-
will the senator from Alaska also hold on to her seat? Nas?
Oh my God.
Yeah, it doesn't look
Lisa
good for
McCarthy.
Palin yeah, it doesn't look good for Palin in Alaska. As far as Cheney, she's probably not going to win. She's swimming against the tide. Like, it is what it is. If you're going to be the one to say, hey, this whole thing we have is not only made up, but our party's a farce.
After voting with him 90% of the
We're going to see
time.
some of the old money and new money go after
But
Cheney.
she voted with Trump 90% of the time.
Over.
Doesn't her record count for anything?
No. Because you have to be a cultist. You have to have fealty to Trump, not country or
she's a
party.
traitor.
Here's the other part about authoritarian regimes. Authoritarian regimes require 100% fealty. It can't be, well, I voted with you 90% of the time. I just disagree
And
with you on
useful
this.
idiots.
No, it has to be 100% compliance. Now, why are we in this authoritative moment and we're looking at authoritative leaders across the world? Well, you go back to the 2008 global meltdown. Financial crisis leads to far right-wing authoritarian, typically fascist government. So, like, you can look up this correlation yourself, and you'll be amazed when you see, like, the far right on the march after a financial meltdown. Or
That's
some
how
type
Hitler.
of
That's how Hitler was.
Hitler was a socialist. Hitler was a socialist.
All right, wait a minute. I can't. You got to let him finish. You got to let him finish. Go ahead, Nas.
Yeah, and you can easily see the kind of diagram to where we are now. So add those two things in there, the pandemic, the financial meltdown. Then you bring in the authoritarian who comes in and says, all these people are liars, they're crooks, they're thieves. Only I can solve the problems you have. And the moment they get in, they start to do what? They start to chisel away at your institutions. Well, the FBI actually isn't any good. Well, you know what? The election hasn't happened yet, but I guarantee you if I don't win, then that means they stole it. He's hitting the election system. Then you talk about the financial system. Well, these people, they stole everything and they plead the fifth, and then yada, yada, yada. You see what I mean? So you attack the institutions that exist. You claim that you're the only one that can fix them, and your supporters end up kind of, in a zombified way to where they have to march along with you because they've kind of given all of their credibility away to you because you're the only one that can fix it. So, yeah, it's kind of predictable that we would be in this moment at this time. And Trump was predictable as well.
So let me ask our caller, Daryl Lynn, who has done a lot of campaigning. When you see Wyoming GOP Rep Liz Cheney facing a Trump-backed attorney, Harriet Hagman, or a Trump-endorsed Kelly Sabaka in Alaska challenging Senator Lisa Murkowski, do you expect Trump's weight to topple these incumbents?
I think in Wyoming, yes. I think in Alaska, no. I think that, like the gentleman before was saying, that Liz Cheney more than likely is going to win, but that's a loss for Wyoming and not a loss for America because she's probably going to run against Trump in 2024. Hopefully she'll beat him as the Republican or at least she'll beat him through the primary.
So why would you? So wait a minute. Let me ask you. Why would you want her to beat him when she is voting with him? I'm just asking this question. I'm not necessarily agreeing or disagreeing, but if she's voting with him 90% of the time on legislative issues or bills or laws or things that he's doing, why would you want her to beat him? Aren't you going to get more of the same with her?
No, because what he did. January 6th changed the game. Changed everything. It just erased his entire legacy. Nobody cares about what he did prior to January 6th. Outside of the telling people to ingest themselves with Lysol.
He never did that. That's a lie. He never said that. He never said that. I can prove you. I can prove you wrong. He never said ingest yourself with that. That's a lie.
Yeah, he did. Yeah, he did.
No, he didn't. You want to bet me $1,000? Bet me $1,000 on this show tonight. Bet me $1,000, please. Bet me $1,000. I'll prove I'm right. Bet me $1,000.
I watched the interview.
You want to bet $1,000? Bet me tonight. I bet you $1,000. Bet me $1,000. It's a lie. It's a lie that's been repeated enough times that enough stupid people believe it. A lie told enough times enough stupid people believe it.
Can you let people talk? Can you let Stephen?
$1,000. With whataboutism again to remove her from the topic that she was on, and she was covering it quite well. But this goes back to the fealty to Trump. So it can't just be that you agree with him. It has to be that when he makes a mistake or says something crazy, you have to say, "Oh, well, he was joking," or "No, he didn't mean it like that," or "Oh, no, you're quoting out of context." There's always an excuse because it has to be fealty to Trump. So that's why we get the Lysol.
Right.
Trump is by far the worst American president in the United States history. By far.
Stephen has proven he's an idiot by saying Hitler was a socialist.
He was a socialist.
He was a fascist, man.
He was
There's
a
difference.
socialist.
Look it up. Look up socialism and communism versus fascism.
What we're going through right now in this country is socialist fascism. We have fascism in this country.
He was a dictator.
Caller is talking.
Businesses are working with the government. That's fascism.
Education,
this is
Stephen.
happening in this country. We are national.
I'm listening to the caller. Mute Stephen.
And if the market fails,
no, I'm right. I'm right.
All right. Well, we had much to cover.
You don't have.
We had much more to cover, but we are out of time. Keith,
I don't need it because I'm right.
Stephen, shut your pie hole before I go.
You don't need $1 million, Stephen. You're just babbling at this point. I know you're angry and you have something emotional.
Keith, I gotta get Keith in to make one quick. Keith, your mic. I can't unmute you. Unmute you, Keith. You mic. You okay? Keith, do you want to make one last comment? And
yeah,
sure.
Yeah,
You're gonna
Stephen was right.
Ask Keith Stephen to marry him.
You're gonna have to mute everybody if you want to be.
Go ahead.
Okay. All I can say is that, to the caller, with all due respect to that lady, I almost am tempted to just give up and say, let the Democrats and Biden run the country. Let them run the country. Just let it go and see how she fares in a few years. But other than that, I'm gonna say that these people are definitely not honest. They don't know what they're talking about. Stephen is correct. I stand with Stephen, and that's about the best I can do because they're not
engaged in a political debate.
They're not going to let us really have a conversation. We can't have a conversation. Trump, let me just say that Cheney, if that woman, if you think that voting with Trump 90% of the time, and all of a sudden she votes against Trump to impeach him, well, that kind of tells you something. It tells you that she didn't really believe
that tells you she's for his policies.
You can't get through this unless you mute people because you're not going to get through everybody.
All right, but Keith, you can't go on forever. I gave you the time. You had to come to some sort of conclusion. You had to come. You got to bring your plane in. You got to land your plane, Keith. You can't. I got to be. Circling around the airport.
I got to be able to make a statement without being interrupted.
All right.
Otherwise, I have to start over.
So you were, but you kept going. Go back and look at the show. To our first responders in our communities, you make our lives livable. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to our women and men of the U.S. military for all that you do in sacrificing your lives so that we are free to say whatever we choose on this show. We are forever indebted. On behalf of Aguna, the Nigerian moderate Republican, South Carolina State, Keith, the constitutional conservative, Stephen, the independent thinker.
Oh, yeah, right.
Straight out the basement, 3 levels
straight
down.
Out the hood, straight out the hood.
And thank you, Nas. Nas is still on. Thank you, Nas, for joining us.
Yeah, and just so Stephen knows, Hitler actually killed the socialists. Look up the Night of the Long Knives. You might want to look into the socialist.
He killed a bunch of Jews. He had a bunch of Jews killed. They weren't
wasn't a socialist. It's so stupid. He fought against
And my cousin Todd. Thank you to our caller, Darylyn, for calling in. We will be off
Socialist
until
Workers
after
Party
Labor Day.
It's a national social.
We will be off until after Labor Day. We'll be back on live after Labor Day. You can watch any of our previous episodes at YouTube. Watch us on Stephanie Stallworth's The Flow Television Network. You can catch us on YouTube at Sporlitiks, where sports and politics mix and mingle. You can catch us on Twitter at Sporlitiks. You can catch us on Twitch at Sporlitiks. You can catch us on TikTok at Sporlitiks, or check out what we're doing in our lives on our Instagram page at Sporlitiks.com. We'll see you after Labor Day. Good night.
In the name.
Dance, come on.
It says socialist in the name Nazi. They're not Nazis.
You're so gullible, man. You're so gullible. Look at the policy.
Yeah, and the fascism is what we're going through in this country right now. The socialists are taking over this country, and fascism is taking over this country as well. When the businesses and the government are working hand in hand, that's fascism, Aguna. Do you know any of that? Do you have any sense?
Actually,
fascism is government working. That is a definition. You are supporting fascist socialists in this country. What is wrong with you? That would support the left at this point.
You don't know what you're talking about. Stop proving it to us.
Do you think we might need we need like a 30 IQ between you and I? Between us both, we have a 30 IQ. Are we smart enough to know?
Did you take your medication today, Steve?
Not good for
Did you take your medication? You're sweating.
You're going to have to die.
You take your medication.
I'm not sweating.
You're free
healthcare.
Did you use your Obamacare?
Listen. I listen.
You used your Obamacare today, didn't you?
I don't sweat.
Stop babbling. Okay. Ridiculous.
Steven, listen to me.
Did I say my name when I signed off, or I didn't say my name when I signed off?
I don't think you said your name.
That's okay. I don't think I want to be known because you all are embarrassing.
I don't blame you.
No, Steven thinks because socialist rhymes with fascist rhymes with all these other
What
ifs.
we're going through, the
They're all the same
country, and
thing.
they're fascists. It's the little people are going to get hurt. What they just did with this new $1 trillion thing is going to hurt all of us, and all these tax people coming in is going to hurt all of us. Do you not understand how bad this is going to be for the normal?
This is not going to. Steven, listen.
For the normal,
you won't have to pay more than $2,000, which you can't afford, for your medicine.
He doesn't believe you, Todd. You can explain. There's no use.
You think medicine costs are going to get better? They're not.
He capped it. Listen,
what do you propose, Steven? Here's the thing.
You cannot pay more than $2,000 a year. You can't.
But what everything let's say that's true, but everything else we're going to have to pay for to pay in taxes is going to eclipse whatever little bit of that helps you. Whatever they do to help you, it doesn't matter because you got to pay so much more in taxes. Aguna,
what ideas do you have?
You think you're going to be okay? You're not.
What are you proposing?
Tax people are coming after you.
Listen,
what ideas do you have?
Stacey, they're coming after Keith. They're coming after Todd. They're coming after me.
They're not coming after you.
Yes,
they are. Over $400,000 a year.
You can't explain a policy or a position.
That's not true.
This is why it's bad.
There's no way with everything that they want to spend that they need our tax money. That's why they got.
How can you stand this and not say anything?
Collect our taxes.
Not going up
and Todd, I don't know about you, but I
just
don't have the
babbling,
lawyer money to compete against the tax people that make up stuff about me. You don't understand what's going on. This is
not where the money isn't. So no, they're not coming after you, regular Joe 9-to-5 guy. That's not what this is about. And I think somewhere you kind of know that, but they explain the prescription drug thing to you. And then you say, well, they're going to do something else and get something some other way. When you've been so biased against thinking that all government is bad and your country is against you and everything is stacked against you, then you're always going to be vulnerable to whatever conspiracy somebody comes up with. So you're going to click on Facebook tonight and find a new one, and that'll be your thing for next week. So it never ends. Sooner or later, you have to realize maybe I need to read and study these things and figure out what they actually mean. Then I have an idea.
Hey, nah.
All right.
Good
night.
Everyone who makes
don't look at information. They're used to going after liberals on the social media.
They have to go after them and be.
They don't have to explain themselves.
Or they have to be. I mean, is that the assumption that everyone who makes over 400,000 is cheating automatically? They have to.
It's not going to be like that. The people that make under 400,000 and pay the most. We always have, Keith.
State of Delaware, where people can incorporate and hide money, and also Las Vegas. Those are the two biggest shell game states here. Like they always tell you offshore accounting, but no, those two areas are where you can find the most money that is hidden. And yes, this is widely known. This is why Apple has a factory in Ireland that doesn't produce anything, because they use it as a tax write-off. Now, will they allow things like that to continue to happen and say, no, you company's going to have to pay your fair share?
Yeah. All right. Have a good holiday. Good night. Have a good holiday. Good night. Bye-bye. Bye, boy. Bye. Bye, boy. Bye.
Steven.
I'm not wrong. When have I been wrong? Watch.
Steven, you're going to have
Steven, you're wrong now. You can't even spell your name.
Beard.
You can't even spell your name, Steven.
Watch.
You're going to have to
That's
dye
how you
your
spell
beard,
it.
Steven.
That means crown. That means king. Steven means king. It means crown.
You're going to have
That's
to dye
what
your
Steven
beard.
means.
You're going to have to dye your beard.
You're not spelling it right.
You're going to have